So it makes me think about what Shep was saying about his project, kind of summarizing research papers on archive. So if we have a ton of information and we're only going to get more members writing more posts and more community members making more proposals, and things are just being summarized, more things are being summarized and kind of diluted down to its bare points. Is there an issue there with maybe losing context?
I would say, well, obviously, but also no. Obviously, you will lose context if you reduce the size of any substantial amount of text, but that's not necessarily the point. The point is to be able to understand what is most interesting to users and to be able to provide that to them in a sort of feed. It isn't necessarily that you have 200 words to work with to capture everything going on in nouns. It's that you have a certain amount of words to capture what a user is interested in that's going on in nouns. And hence we have this idea of being able to include things like user profiles, settings. I only want to know about updates relating to esports or digital merchandise or sub-DAOs of nouns, while this other guy wants to know about IRL events as well as physical merch and philanthropy. So you don't necessarily just need to constantly make things shorter and shorter and shorter. There can be a terminal length dependent upon what all people are interested in. We can just provide them that subset, which I think can find a good medium between the context needed to better understand things. And on top of that, we will always provide people with the source material so that they can understand the bigger picture if they'd like to go in and understand things to a greater extent.
Yeah, I mean, you can always go back and read the original post, but I like what you were saying. You're kind of subscribing to the aspects of the DAO, the topics that you care about most. But yeah, let's hear your thoughts, Shep.
Yeah, this is actually like a super important question and one that I have a lot of conversation about is that yes, like whoever is determining that this is a good summary or this is not a good summary, when you're changing information, right? You're starting to take on the responsibility a little bit of like a news agency, right? Like what you're cutting out is inherently going to have impacts down the road. And that's why I think actually that nouns and this kind of project is the perfect implementation for something like this, because you can get so many people to give their opinion on what that is. And that's like one of the most exciting parts of what we're working on, like literally right now. And Steve's not here, but Steve's been volunteering time to start building this out, which has been awesome, is building out this like interface so that people can participate in the kind of identification of what it means to be a good summary and in what capacity. So what that looks like is, say that there's a proposal and it gets summarized into, Rocco's 5 bullet points for his Rocco review. And every time that comes out, it goes to a website where holders can connect their wallet and see the proposal that Rocco reviewed, right? And if that's something that falls into the topics that you're interested in, you're probably going to go through and read the whole thing rather than just Rocco's review. Maybe it's about esports and Honk's gone in and checked it out. And then Honk sees Rocco's review at the end and it's like, oh, okay, this looks pretty solid. But after reading it through, there's this point that they missed or this point. And really, I don't think that it should be a support. It should be an abstain or something like that. You can go in and actually make that edit themselves. And then that edit can then be passed back into Rocco as like a part of that fine tuning process we talked about so that it reflects that person's kind of like contribution and input there. And so that's why I think an organization like this is so, and this tool in particular, which I haven't really heard anybody building something like this before, like we're just making it easier to do fine tuning and have a lot of people participate in that. The reason I don't think it's really been built before is it might have been built before, but hasn't been brought to my attention, is because they're just getting a group of people that are willing to contribute to this is not easy, and getting one that's willing to contribute and excited about AI and will continue to contribute on an ongoing basis is also not easy. So that's why I'm really excited about kind of the direction this project has started to go and the fact that it can be a collaborative effort through that fine tuning. Now that's just like the first step, because after that, it's about like understanding what data has gone into the model to kind of have it create its current decisions on what it summarizes. But that's kind of a little bit of the direction of the conversations that people are having around open sourcing the Twitter algorithm, for example. Like just understanding what is impacting that summarization and how I could potentially, as a participant, change that or put my own opinion on it, I think is, I've said it a few times, but why this platform is such an interesting, it's such a good one, I think, for this experiment.
Yeah, awesome. Shep, that's super exciting from the noun owner side of things, the actual DAO members. How can they help maybe collaborate with Roko in this project, and kind of what would you ask from them on their side to make this thing great?
So right now we're working with some of the holders, some of the nouners who are spending time volunteering to help us take some of these outputs that Roko is creating. So like the reviews of a proposal, for example, and doing a few edits to them to make sure that they accurately represent a view of a nouner and that it's formatted in a way that they think is good. And then that is data that we can then pass back into the model to train it further. If you're really interested and you really want to help with the project, come over to Nouns, the AI Nouns channel, and say, hey, we're always looking for help. But hopefully in the near future, we've got Steve heads down working on a user interface that will enable anybody to help us on a web interface where they'll just be able to see all of the generation that Roko has created and then be able to give those like upvotes, if they're solid, or like edit them if they're not. And that's where hopefully you'll be able to get some more participation, even just sharing the content that comes out of Roko too. I think it's gonna get to a point where it's, the way that people can help is just having them lean in, like use it. Hopefully it's helpful to you, give feedback, just use it. Yeah, be a part of the ecosystem. I don't think that there's anything too specific right now.
Yeah. You mentioned the web app that's in the work. Can you explain what Roko is doing today and what you guys are working on fully developing? Like all the touch points that when it's kind of firing on all cylinders, it will kind of paint me the picture of Roko fully integrated into the DAO.
Yeah, sure. So we've made a lot of progress in a month and a half, and we have a month and a half left to go. So in the past month and a half, we were able to set up pipelines so that Roko now can take in any proposal and spit out a 5-bullet response, which is a little bit easier said than done. And we've gone through a round of feedback to get, like 50 of those responses edited by those noun holders, some of the awesome volunteers that we've got, and fed it back into the model. So now we have a slightly improved model already. That's where we're sitting with the reviews. So that's awesome. Roko can review anything that's passed into him via Discord. Shout out Honk for getting that integrated. That works. It's in Discord right now. And then we also have Roko working call to meeting note pipeline as well. So it'll automatically transcribe a call into text and then use a large language model to summarize that text into meeting notes. So both of those things work already, and we have the pipeline set up to have that work manually. We're starting on an automated pipeline for both of those things. Roko now has the ability to hop into Discord calls and record them, although he gets tired, so longer recordings are a little bit tough still right now. But that's kind of where we're at. So we have the manual part done, which is awesome. I expected it to take much longer, but again, thanks to people like Honk and Steve and others stepping up, like we're able to get a lot more done. So now in the next month and a half before we wrap up is to try and get it automated so that every time there's a call, you can invite Roko via Discord and then it'll pump out that bulleted summary to the owner right away. Similarly, we're going to have anytime a new proposal comes out, it's piped out to relevant people right away. Hopefully that's the website. We're pushing on getting that done. Otherwise, we're going to build pipelines to pump it automatically to Discord. If we can get kind of like a review done of the content coming out and we think that it has reached a certain bar, not just us, obviously everyone who wants to come to the meetings on Tuesday mornings, 7 a.m., 10 a.m. Eastern, love to have anybody's point of view there. But once we can get those things done automatically, hopefully we can get it on a website. Otherwise, we pump it out to social media and on Discord. So that's kind of what's coming. And then after that, there's been a lot of rumblings on how we can almost turn this into an AI toolkit for governance. Just this idea of having all of the information of a DAO in a queryable kind of format that can be used to make ongoing decisions, I think is a super interesting idea, and is something that a few different people have been having conversations about, and I think it's a super interesting direction to go in the future. But we want to focus on kind of what's ahead of us right now in this next month and a half to wrap up this current contract, but exciting stuff ahead for sure.